We all like to throw around horsepower numbers like 700 horsepower, 1000 horsepower, 1200 pound-feet of torque, 2400 pound-feet of torque. That's all fine and dandy, but if you're putting that on your Cummins engine, you need to make sure that you're taking care of that transmission. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how to take care of the 48RE and make sure that the power you put into your engine can get to the ground reliably. We all want to get more power out of our trucks, and it's easy to do that on these common rail 3rd gen Cummins pickups, but while we're doing that, we need to make sure that we're taking care of the transmission as well. If you give your engine more power, you need to upgrade that transmission to make sure it can handle that power reliably and get it to the ground. Here's some ways that you can take care of your 48RE transmission. First, the most obvious thing to take care of your transmission on your 3rd gen Cummins would be to keep your foot off the skinny pedal. I know that's common sense, and a lot of people don't want to adhere to that advice, especially if you're adding power to this thing. You want to enjoy it, you want to have fun, you want to be able to tow heavy objects, heavy trailers. Now, it all depends on what you want to do with your truck and what your horsepower goals are, what your torque goals are. On these Cummins pickups, you got to be careful, because if you're adding horsepower, you're pretty much doubling the amount of torque to the amount of horsepower that you're adding. So if you add 100 horsepower, you're probably adding about 200 pound-feet of torque. That's really what could tear up the transmission. It's not the horsepower necessarily, but the amount of torque that you're putting into these things. If you're keeping your truck under 330 to 350 horsepower to the wheels, you probably don't have to do anything to the transmission, but it would be a good idea to go ahead and consider getting a valve body upgrade. Now, from all the research I've done, if you're planning to keep your truck between 400 and 500 horsepower to the wheels, then you're going to need that upgraded valve body, and you're also going to need to upgrade your torque converter. And what this will do is it'll help your shifts be firmer, and the upgraded torque converter and valve body will keep your transmission lasting longer and get that 400 to 500 horsepower to the ground. If you're stepping up from the 400 to 500 horsepower range up to the 500 to 600 horsepower range, you're going to need to consider a triple disc torque converter. That adds more plates in the torque converter so that you can get more of that torque from your engine to your transmission safely and get it to the ground. You're also going to need to consider getting a billet input shaft. It's highly recommended. It may not be necessary if you can keep your foot out of it, but like most of us, I would recommend getting that billet input shaft. If you're going between 600 to 700 horsepower, you really need to start considering whether or not you want to get a fully built race transmission for your truck. Most of the race transmissions can handle 700 to 1000 horsepower or more, depending on where you get them built and what specs that you request them to build them to. But for 600 horsepower, the minimum that you're going to need is that valve body upgrade, triple disc torque converter, billet input and billet output shafts on your transmission. And I would consider getting a billet intermediate shaft as well. So going with a billet input, intermediate, and output shaft will make your transmission as strong as you could possibly make it without going to a fully built race transmission. It'll get that power from your engine through the triple disc torque converter to your drive shaft in the most reliable way that you could possibly do. Now, if you're going to go over 700 horsepower on your truck, then I definitely recommend considering getting a fully built race transmission. That's really the only thing that's going to be reliable in that power to the ground. Even if your truck is a street driven truck most of the time, you're going to want that horsepower to be reliable getting to the ground, and so therefore I highly recommend going with a fully built race transmission over 700 horsepower. If you do plan to upgrade the horsepower on your truck and go to 400, 500, 600, 700 horsepower, just make sure that you're taking care of your truck, take care of the transmission, upgrade it as necessary. There are proven methods to keep this transmission in being reliable and in good working condition for many, many, many miles. These trucks have gone well over millions of miles as long as they're well taken care of and maintained. So take care of your truck and enjoy it. Now that you know your transmission is in good shape and it's going to last you a long time, you can just roll out and keep on rolling. I'm Jay Ray. I hope this video was informative and that it helped you out. If it did, leave a comment below. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you have any suggestions for future videos, go ahead and leave that down below as well. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content from my channel. Have a great day. God bless.